and 3.
I'm starting off this particular reading with Likka Sto Rufus's mask on because he asked me to do it. Yes, that's the way he is, or he was. So I can take this off, and since I've done what I was asked to do, and I can start into our Tuesday reading of none other than Likka Sto Rufus. It's going to take me a minute to get adjusted here to calling in. All stations calling in. Okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm reading chapter 12 and 13 for Likka Sto Rufus. The reason why is because chapter 12 is about a page and 2.
Okay.
But here it is, and here we go. Sydney, Australia. God Almighty, it was like being lifted from hell to heaven. Wait, well, it wasn't quite heaven, but it was a long, long way from the hell of Viet Nam. Yvonne met me with baby Melvin in her arms, and I stepped onto the love roller coaster for the next 30 days. Check it out, Willie. Lad, I was a 24-year-old, well, however I was, daddy, married to a 40,000-year-old woman. We were back at the Salena-Hawkins, the Filipino restaurant they hung out in. Rufus, just talk to me about what it was like, what it felt like for you to be in Australia with a wife and child. What do you think I was going to talk about? This weird experience that I had in Saigon with this Tai Chi master who had just escaped from the Viet Nam, the woman who had learned how to forecast the future. What did she tell you? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. We were back in what had become our favorite restaurant, the Salena-Hawkins, and Rufus was fencing off my questions like a master fencer. So why don't you just tell me what you want to tell me? That's just what I was getting ready to do before you started pecking at me. Pecking at me. Sorry. Ain't no real big thing. Yvonne and the baby, that took a minute to get used to. When I left, she wasn't pregnant. Well, not right then anyway, but soon after. And I'm back on the scene many months later, and I got a 2-month-old son. In addition to a whole bunch of other things, I was prepared to have our taxi take us back to the shanty town where she lived. No good. Where's this? I asked her when she directed the taxi driver onto these really nice homes. They called them council apartments. I didn't want to raise our child in the shanty town. I didn't have to argue with her about that, but how did she do it? How did she rise from the shanty town to this? Melvin, I have to tell you, your commanding officer, Major Knightsbridge, he's a colonel now. Well, blessings on him. Blessings on him. He had a member of his staff come and chat with me after you were deployed to Viet Nam. This lady, a woman? Yes, Captain Powers. She took down a lot of info, asked me what I wanted, what I needed, and all that. It was clear that I would not be welcome, but beyond that, I made it plain that I would need a proper environment to raise my child in. I didn't bite my tongue. I told her straight up, I don't see why I, the wife of an American soldier, should be forced to raise a child in the slums of Sydney. As you can see, they did something about my situation. Well, can you dig the scene? Can you dig the scene? This young wife was pulling strings and had pulled strings to improve her station in life for her child's sake. I was bowled over. Coupled to that, she was going to school for 4 days a week, carrying the baby in a basket. Mom is going to start keeping him when I get into my sophomore year. To do what? She was studying to be a social psychologist. Can you get ready for that, Willie, man? So, Rufus's voice was approaching the loud level again. I gestured for him to be cool. Sorry about that. But look, hey, look at this. I left this girl, woman, and came back a year later, and she has my son and has created a whole new life for herself. She was studying to become a social psychologist. Why social psychology? The way she explained it to me was that her people needed some people to help them to create an understanding of where they were, what they were going through, and how they could move on. Rufus, I don't know a lot about social psychology, but I've never heard of a social psychologist who makes it better for their people by getting agreed. Well, that just goes to prove a point. Social psychology improves people's lives by explaining what they have done, what they're doing, and what they could be doing. Oh, I felt like I'd been chastised. Rufus hit me with one of his snarky eye rolls. Don't feel bad. Yvonne did me just like I did you. We're never too old to learn something, or something new, right? I agreed with him by slapping low fives across the table. Chapter 13. I was a long way from being ready to go back to the war zone when my leave came. Well, me and Yvonne had really got to know each other, you know what I'm saying? Early on, to be honest, there was this deep physical attraction thing. I know a little bit about it. Well, then you know what I'm talking about. We had the thing going on for sure, but then we really got deep off into stuff. I called her my 40,000-year-old wife because she could get into that dream time stuff and a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't know squat about. I was a slum-bled brother from Chicago, and she was the daughter of the original people. That was the way she put it. Original people. Not aboriginal, original. Dig the difference? The white people named us aboriginals. We've always called ourselves the original people. We got so close, so deep into each other during my leave, we could actually have differences of opinion about different things. She thought that it was wrong for America and Australia to be in Southeast Asia together in Viet Nam. It's simply another Anglo-colonial power play. Look, the French were there and discovered they couldn't beat the Vietnamese to their knees. So the Americans decided to take over where the French left off. This is to stop the spread of communism from taking over the whole world, right? Melvin, read my lips, she suggested. What sense does it make to say that we're trying to stop the spread of communism from North Vietnam to South Vietnam when the big red China is strongly behind the North? Sorry, my husband, but you're destined to lose this one. We had to let it go at that point, but I have to admit, she really started me to thinking. She had planted some ideas, some thoughts that I'd never considered before. Make a long story short, I started thinking about not going back to Vietnam at the end of my leave. Yvonne counselled me, no, please don't do that, Melvin. They'll put you in jail for 5 years for deserting. Desertion during time of war is considered treason. You could be executed. Willie, you too cold. Shut up. You sound like Yvonne. Rufus could imitate the Little Richard's sarcastic audience, friendly, sassy, put down to a T. Shut up. You sound like Yvonne. Sorry to interrupt your beauty sleep, old stick, but it looks like your expertise is needed. I was back down in the tunnels again, but I didn't like it this time around. Kind of hard to explain. Early on, working with my partner, Mr. Strings, it was sort of an adventure. I was scared shitless most of the time, but there was still a sense of adventure about the whole thing. It didn't help matters a whole lot when they partnered me up with this wild kid from a sheep ranch. Aussies speak this brand of English they call strine. Strine. rhymes with drain. This kid spoke a strain that was so thick I could barely understand a word he said. I was the 23-year-old elder. He was my apprentice. He lasted exactly 3 days. It didn't happen in the tunnel. It happened out on patrol. He picked up a booby-trapped plastic doll and it blew his head halfway off. I felt I'd heard enough for one day. I wanted to stop hearing about all this ugly shit, this madness. Rufus had a hard expression on his face, but he asked in a very gentle voice, "You want me to stop talking about this crazy ass shit?" No, don't stop. I need to hear this because it's what I'm working on, what I'm writing about. We ordered more tea and he kept talking. After the kid was blown away, I don't think I had another sober day for years afterwards. The thing you have to remember about now, man, is that the whole scene was so surrealistic. That's when things are too close to be true, right? Too real to be true. Best definition I can think of. So that's what it was. Surrealistic. A lot of us got high on something and stayed high most of the time. Everybody smoked weed. That was like nothing. Some of us fell into a heroin bag. Some of us mixed pills and beer together. Every day was surrealistic. It was especially surrealistic out in the boonies, in the field. Check this out. It had gotten to the point in my mind that I felt like I should deflect to the Viet Cong. Why would you do that? Would they kill you? Answer to question number one, I would defect because I could see that we were losing the war. And India could see that. If I defected, I would be on the winning side. See how warped my thinking was at that time?
Wow.
Would they kill me? Well, maybe, maybe not. I had got hold of a lot of propaganda pamphlets and stuff about the fact that we were over there fighting and dying for the white people. This is the kind of stuff I had going on in my mind as I drug my body through this tunnel. Tunnel 9042, something like that. Or it seemed to be. Yeah, I had made up my mind. If I ran into any Kong down in this tunnel, I was going to surrender to them, defect. But that wasn't what happened. I crawled to one of these rooms where they were using as a meeting room, nobody on the scene. They may have been there 10 minutes before I got there or an hour before, but there was nobody there when I got there. I was relieved, to say the least. I had already changed my mind about defecting halfway in my crawl through the tunnel. And I was grateful that I didn't have to kill anybody. And there was nobody on the scene to kill me. I started my crawl back to the tunnel opening. Bam! I felt something like 100 needles sticking to both of my knees at the same time as I crawled through a section of the tunnel. Damn, what the hell is this? I was on the verge of screaming like a crazy baby when they pulled me up from the tunnel. I couldn't figure out what was happening. They rushed me to the medic. Everybody calls him Doc. Doc, what's going on? I felt like I have needles burning in my knees. From what I could see, you're about right. You do have needles in your knees. I don't know why, but that struck a funny chord in my head. Needles in my knees? Get it, Willie? Needles in my knees? What else could I do but nod? Yeah, I get it. Needles in my knees. There was nothing about that sounded funny to me. I have to give it to him. Stuff that started moving faster in Viet Nam than it had ever moved. It took about 2 hours to copter me out of the boonies to the base hospital. The problem was that it took them a lot longer to detail what had happened to me. I thought it was kind of interesting what this young doctor, Dr. Choi was his name, explained. Okay, so here's the story, soldier. You crawled into the tunnel, no problem, right? Now, when you turn around to crawl out, the Viet Cong had calibrated a booby trap arrangement with hundreds of toothpick-sized punji sticks. You're familiar with punji sticks, right? Right. So you're crawling out, these sticks slant up, you know, like how your car gets trapped on one of those traps that will permit you to roll forward or will spike your tires if you back up. That's what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
The toothpick punji sticks that feel like needles to you have been marinated in some kind of nerve deadening substance. Let's call it a poison. We don't have all of the diagnostic and therapeutic facilities to treat your problem. So we're shipping you off to a hospital in Mannheim, Germany. Good luck, soldier.
Oh.
So there I was, up Schitt's Creek without a pedal. One thing I say, they drugged me up pretty good for my trip to Germany. I had this guilty feeling we were taking hold of our Salamat Po table a bit too long, but when Rufus stepped to the men's room to release some of his tea, Lola placed a fresh pot of tea on our table and winked. We were cool. I think it was one of the first times in my life that I was grateful that I was in a restaurant that didn't serve beer. Tea was just right for me for the moment. I came to my senses listening to a couple of young studs explaining to me why they were going to have their legs, why they were going to have to cut off my legs just a little bit above the knees. You're not going to cut off my legs. That's what I said to them. And I meant it. I was prepared to bite somebody to death to stop these eagle beavers from sawing my legs off. I have to serve it. I have to give it to these guys. They were really patient with me. They explained, look, soldier, we've managed to extract all of these punchy toothpicks out of your knees, but whatever they smeared on these sticks has damaged the nerves in your knees. We're not sure, but we think that you might be on the way to a bad case of gangrene. In other words, if the gangrene settles in, you'll have a serious problem. I can't remember what I said to them, what kind of plea I cocked, but they listened. They gave my legs a second chance. From that time on, like every 2 or 3 hours or so, I had somebody putting something into my body. And as you can see, with your thick glasses, I still have my legs, and I'm here, loud and clear. I heard that. Maybe my statement sounded a bit sarcastic, judging from the warped smile he flashed across the table. Saved my legs and lost my soul. I guess that's one way to describe what happened. What happened? I knew you were going to ask me that. Why don't we get into that tomorrow? I got a terrific headache. Sorry, Rufus, should have told me. What could you do? You got a cure for the kind of headaches I have? I decided not to even try to answer this question. I had learned how to go with the Rufus flow. Willie, I got your message. Sorry I wasn't here when you called. I had to work late. I hope all is going well with you and your work. I miss you very much, and I'm counting the days till we'll be together. That's all I have to say right now. Let's talk tomorrow. I'll be on by 6. Can you believe any human being could lie as often and as badly as this beast monster called the president can lie? Oh, well, I guess we should be used to it by now. How's Rufus now? I'll talk to you tomorrow. I replayed Zizi's response to my earlier call just to listen to her voice. How's Rufus going? That was her question. I sat at my kitchen table and forced myself to review my Rufus file, to go through the pile of notes I had accumulated, that I was accumulating. How's Rufus going? I left the kitchen table and sprawled on the sofa in my front room, clicked the remote on. Oh God, not him again. What does Zizi call him? This beast monster. No one could ever think of a more accurate name. How can beast monster stand behind his pulpit and tell many blatant, outrageous lies? The country's being eaten alive by a plague, and he's telling all of these lies, giving all of this misinformation out. Enough of this madness. Wonder what Rufus meant when he asked me, you got a cure for the kind of headaches I have? I'll have to probe that a bit when we get back together. I have to admit, I was on the cusp of panic after driving past the liquor store parking lot, driving back past the liquor store an hour later, after the beach, parking for another hour. Where is he? After 3 days, I almost panicked. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he committed suicide. The veteran suicide rate was sky high. Oh, yes, he's asleep. Mr. Kim was busy selling booze, so he didn't have time to explain why his backyard tenant was asleep. I went back to my car to think things out for a bit. It was 12 o'clock, high noon.
Mm.
His panhandling hours, like clockwork, were from 11 to 2. I went back to the car, sat there thinking on the situation real hard for half an hour. What the hell? I decided to grab the cat by the tail. I drove around through the alley behind Mr. Kim's store and parked as close to the side of the alley as I could. I had to see what was happening with the brother. Rufus. Rufus, it's me, Willie. What are you doing out there? Come on in. What's that old cliche? I was pleasantly surprised at what I found inside his tent. He was lying on a thick futon against the wall, right over there, and there was a chair, one of those low-slung garden deals at the opposite wall. That was the furniture, aside from the neat stacks of books surrounding the sides of the tent. You have to keep your mask on in here because there's not too much circulation. He pulled a mask from a hanger near him and strung it behind his ears. I had to crouch a bit, but that was the only discomfort. He let me do the surreptitious study thing for a few beats. Sit down, have a seat. What's happening? I felt tempted to start off at a high tempo, fever breathless question level. Where you been, man? But I knew better. I settled into the lawn chair, very comfortable place to rest your legs in front of you.
Mm.
Hadn't seen you a few days. Just wondered where you were, what was happening to you. He plopped himself up on a fat round pillow and stared at me for a few intense seconds. I've been walking. Walking? I could always hear myself sounding slightly idiotic whenever I repeated what he said to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a lot on my mind after we met last time.
Right.
Like what? What did walking have to do with it? I could almost see through his mask at the sarcastic curl of his mouth. Willie West, I got to give it to you, man. You are a persistent cookie, you know that? I've been called worse. I'm sure you could imagine my grim smile behind my mask. Oh, just let me say this. I've done a lot of walking, a lot of thinking as I walked over the years. I watched him settle back on his pillow to lace his hands behind his head. I went on Rufus alert. We had to be careful not to allow him to begin to meander on me. We were in full Rufus Willie mode operation. You went walking for 3 days? Not days, only at night. I've been sleeping days. And you were thinking about what happened in your life after you got out of the hospital, after the knee surgeries and all that? He slumped and seemed to surrender, but I had to be careful. He was detouring a split sentence. Yeah, there was a lot of that on my mind. I remember you saying, saved my lives and lost my soul. Yeah, that's what I said. You got me, Willie, straight up. So how did you lose your soul? I felt like biting my tongue, but it was too late. Well, since it seems like you really want to know, let me tell you. They dropped me off in Chicago after my hospital stay in Germany. I wanted to go to Australia to be with my woman, who was, surprise, pregnant with our second child. It was a beautiful, loving time we spent together during my 30-day leave. No, they said to my request to go to Australia. We went round and round on that one. They dropped all kinds of arguments on me. Look, soldier, you enlisted in Chicago, and that's your home of record, so that's where you're going to that's where we're going to discharge you. That was the nasty cop. Here's what the good cop laid on me, gently, smoothly. Her brother, Melvin, look, man, they ain't got no VA facilities nowhere in Australia, so far as I know. Now then, from looking at your medical records and stuff, you're going to be needing follow-up treatment for years to come. Now then, let's say you manage to go back to Australia with no VA available to you. What's going to happen to you, man? You know, we got the best healthcare system in the world right up in here. Why go somewhere else and gamble your life away? The bad cop was really the one that pissed me off the most. Look, Private Dixon, we don't find it to be an urgent thing for you to get back to Australia to be with this native woman who's supposed to be your wife. That's number one. Number two, the Army's not able to process the period of your injury with the time you were deployed in Vietnam. I was a tunnel rat attached to the Australian Army of Engineering. What the hell is a tunnel rat? They took you through a lot, huh? Yeah, they took me through a lot, but I fought back. Rufus braced himself on his elbows. I watched his small body become a hard fist. I fought back, Willie. Yes, sir, I fought back. The dirty bastard wouldn't allow me to return to Australia because of budgetary considerations. But I was able to have this stringy-ass pension, which I had to fight for, electronically deposited to Yvonne in Australia. At least I could say to my wife and children, baby coming, that I cared about them. And that's the end of chapter 13.
Whoa. Hold the book up, please.
Likka Sto Rufus. Conversations with Likka Sto Rufus.
Conversations with Likka Sto Rufus. Thank you very, very much. Cover by Carlos.
Speedy.
Yes. And it's a blurb by Dr. Justin Clifford.
Exactly, right here.
The book can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Author House on the internet. And your website is www.odihawkins.com. So it's moving right along, and it's Rufus is quite a character.
Yeah, he's quite a character. You know what I keep thinking? I think this will make a very, first of all, I think it's a movie, or it could be a television series of Vietnam in a way that they've not seen it from that particular perspective, from the tunnel rat perspective.
Right, tunnel rats, yeah.
But also, as a movie, they've done Vietnam movies, but they've never done the tunnel rat for whatever reason. Maybe it's too depressing, I guess. But in addition to that, I could see it as a small play. If you were to be able to take the scenes of what was happening and use photography to put them. I would like to see something where they were using what do you call it? Stock footage on the screen. To show what was happening during that period of time. And then the characters down here were talking about.
Yeah, they have a green board or whatever. So
it could be
green
done.
Room,
The one thing I do know is that I got Likka Sto Rufus in the blood at this point. And I don't see this character going away.
He's going to resurface, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
that's okay. You know,
he might morph into somebody called Clyde Jackson. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Who knows? Okay, let's get ready for next Tuesday.
Yes.
And all I can say is that I gotta go.
And
it.
Ness.